Welcome to Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm the Reverend Tiffany Sapp, the minister of this church, and my pronouns are she and her. Thank you for joining us today. An especially warm welcome to folks who are new or newer here. Our greeters at the welcome table by the door can help you get oriented if you have any questions. If you have little ones, our greeters can show you the way to the nursery, which is available for children ages 6 and under. We hope you'll stick around for coffee hour after the service and get to know us. And our opening hymn is number 101 in the gray hymnal, Abide With Me. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing together hymn number 101. We, you and I, are in between right now. In between what was and what will be. In between who we were and who we will become. In between letting go and embracing. In between saying hello and saying goodbye. In-betweenness. It's a thing. In-betweenness is a time of fullness, a time of anticipation, a time of hope, a time of worry, a time of sadness. In-betweenness is a time of waiting, waiting for news, waiting for departures, waiting for arrivals, waiting for death, waiting for life. In-betweenness is a time of transformation. A time of reflection, a time of action, a time of growing, a time of becoming. During this time of in-betweenness, of knowing and not knowing, let us enter into the silence together.
Good morning, all. I'm Beth, and I'm your service leader today on this splendid fall day. Glad we can be together. Today, we look at teamwork and problem-solving method called the 6 Thinking Hats. It was developed by psychologist Edward de Bono. This approach begins from the starting point that there are many different ways to look at a challenge, and that these differing points of view serve an important role in the decision-making process, which means this approach might have a lot to offer pluralistic Unitarian Universalists who value critical thinking and want to work together. Let's light our chalice by speaking the words of our vision statement together, which is printed in your bulletin. We work together as a church to transform ourselves, our community, and our world by sharing love, pursuing justice, and seeking wonder. And this is the moment for the children, the youth, and parents to join Reverend Tiffany down front for our time for all ages. Come on up.
Good morning, you all. How are we? Yeah? I'm glad we're good. I'm good too. So I want you to imagine something with me this morning. Imagine that you're going along a trail, a hiking trail, here in the mountains of East Tennessee, and you come across a steep gorge with a river rushing down at the bottom of the gorge. You see a bridge crossing the gorge, and it's made of this. Yeah. Let's pass this around so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. You want to pass it to everyone in the group? So if you saw a bridge made out of grass, what questions might be running through your mind before you set foot on that bridge? What questions might you have? I think we're mostly just interested in am I gonna fall? Is this bridge gonna support me? Yeah, do we have other questions about the grass bridge we might find while hiking? Yes? Why did they put it there? What were they thinking? Who put it there? These are great questions. I'm gonna put that right there. So what I would want to know more than anything else is if the people who made this bridge out of grass also walked across that bridge to cross the gorge, and whether they still want to use it. So we don't have bridges made out of grass here in Tennessee, but many were built for hundreds of years in South America by a people called the Inca people. And I think a few of those bridges still exist. So you're probably wondering how in the world they made a bridge out of grass that works. Well, for starters, they made a fresh bridge every year because if we let it sit for too long, it might stop working. Each person had a special role to play in building this bridge. So first there were people who went and gathered the grass, and then other people took the grass and they spent a lot of time twisting the grass until they made ropes out of the grass. Then other people took those grass ropes and they wove them into thicker braids, and then other people would get the thick braids of grass and twist them into giant cables. And those cables would be as thick as my arm. It went all the way from this to these giant sturdy cables that could actually hold things. So certain people would string the cables across the gorge and pull them nice and tight, and then finally there were people who would lash the cables together in such a way to create a footbed to walk on and rails on each side to hold, so it was a completely sturdy bridge. Each person did their part the best that they could, and they relied on everyone else to do their part as well, because every one of them needed that bridge to work so that they could safely cross the bridge whenever they needed to without falling. Yeah, it's not really a working bridge if we fall, is it? No, not at all. So I tell you about these grass bridges for two reasons. Well, maybe three. The first being that I have a yard full of tall grass right now, which is really handy. Second, it reminds us of how important our small part is. When it's part of something big and strong, even a miraculous bridge made out of grass, we all have our part to do in building the bridge. And it is miraculous. These bridges are as long as our sanctuary in some cases. These are not tiny bridges. They could hold 5 people and their llamas all at the same time. That's pretty amazing. So we in this congregation may not be building a bridge across a raging river, but we are building a way toward our future, our shared vision. We know that what that vision is because we say it every week when we light the chalice. And I want to walk toward that vision, and I think the rest of the folks here do too. And so if I'm going to walk toward a vision, I want a bridge that is going to be safe and secure and not drop me in the raging river. And the best way to do that is to build our bridges together. One of the ways we build together is by offering our unique perspectives in a way that help us figure things out. And that's what today's message is about. So I want you to be thinking about what your perspective is this week, what you bring to this community, and how it helps us build bridges together. All right? After the service, if you all want to find me and you have your parents' permission to take a piece of grass home, you are welcome to. But I'm going to hold on to them until then, okay? Thank you so much for being down here, and y'all can go back to your seats. Today's special music invites us to a place of depth and stillness, a personal, emotional experience that can come to us with the clarity of moonlight shining on the water. So close your eyes if you wish, and let the piano sweep you away. In the stillness, we add one light to another, until the glow of our care for each other fills this space. If you'd like to share a joy or sorrow in person, please use these candle cards, which are located on the back table. And if you'd like to share a joy or a concern from a distance, please email minister@hvuuc.org. Eric Perner asked for me to share with you all that he currently does not have a home, as he was evicted from his previous residence when it was determined to be unsafe to live in, and his landlord decided to demolish the residence rather than get it up to code. On the heels of that injustice and sleeping in a shelter, Eric had a gallbladder attack that hospitalized him and resulted in emergency surgery. Shelter rules created an obstacle that delayed him in getting the care that he needed by several hours. While Eric is working with the state resources available, he is asking his community here for leads on affordable housing and possible roommate situations that could alleviate his difficult situation. And as our community Campbell's time is always such a study in contrast, I want to express my heartfelt thanks to our church leaders here who surprised the heck out of me last week with this pastor appreciation moment. Y'all, I want you to know it means so much to me to be able to envision and think and pray and feel and work side by side with you all. This is just a wonderful community to be a part of, and I'm so glad that I get to be a part of it in the capacity that I do. Thank you so much for celebrating that with me last week. That was really beautiful. Internationally, we want to continue to hold space for the people of Israel and Palestine in our hearts, as well as the Jewish and Muslim people all over the world who are feeling the pain of these ongoing conflicts. And we also want to acknowledge that Intersex Awareness Day, which is on this Thursday, October 26th. About 1.7% of the population are intersex, meaning that they possess differences in sex traits and reproductive anatomy. Intersex people are born with these differences or develop them during puberty. There are many possible differences in hormones, internal anatomy, or chromosomes compared to the two ways that human bodies typically develop. And this is a largely invisible group of people who experience a variety of human rights violations in relationship to their gender development, often when they are very young. And we just want to bring awareness to that today. If you wish to light your own candle, please approach the side of the table that is closest to you, and the closer candle keeper will assist you. Please light candles at the back of the table first so that no one has to reach out over an open flame. And if you wish for us to light a candle for you, please raise your hand until I acknowledge you and I will light a candle for you. Our community is so much larger than just those who are in the building with us this morning, and so we light our first candle for those who are not in the building with us, but are ever present in our hearts and our minds.
This is challenging. The miseducation of justice making. Today's reading is excerpted from Nathan Walker's book, Exercising Preaching, Crafting Intellectually Honest Worship. What does justice making look like, feel like, when we receive hostile communication? Are we hostile in return, or is something else required of us? What we choose to do is a reflection of who we believe ourselves to be. It all depends on what kind of power we value. I once believed it to be powerful to condemn wrongdoers. I believed it right to tear down another's unexamined assumptions and vaporize those whose presence was not worthy of my attention. I've spent far too much energy using the public forum as a battlefield. I've spent far too much energy using the public forum to annihilate those perceived to be my enemy. I believed that others were the cause of my aggression. Others were to blame for my feelings of despair, disappointment, and righteous indignation. I used to believe that being feared was powerful. I used to believe it was my duty to free the oppressed. But when reacting with righteous anger, guess who became the oppressor? So come, lovers of justice and keeper of the dream. Come, justified tyrants and the suppressors of screams. You are all welcome here. None of us are exempt. We have all played the parts, the peacemaker, the warmonger. They live within. That is why we, as seekers of freedom, are required to make justice not simply a product, but a process. Just actions are the means by which to achieve a justice society. When we observe oppression, let us develop strategies that free not only the oppressed, but the oppressor. Let us remember that those who use their power to deny freedom to others are also imprisoned and are also worthy of care. Do not let their unjust actions inspire us to justify employing cruel means, or else we'll soon become what we set out against. The challenge is this. Let us take up the miseducation of justice making by stripping our conscience of images of equity that claim to manifest through condemnation, through humiliation, through shame and blame, and righteous indignation. No, The craft of justice making begins by marrying a just thought with insightful words, inspiring us to collective action, daring to free both the oppressed and the oppressor. For you know what it's like to be both. Don't get me wrong, stand we must, stand strong and bold. But let us choose a new way to balance the scales. Rather than shoving our foot on the oppressor's neck, let us instead reach out a hand, offer a gift, and show them and even ourselves a new way of justice making.
Thank you for doing such justice to a really difficult piece. Appreciate it. How we make decisions is a big part of how we build community. In our reading, Unitarian Universalist minister David Walker makes it clear. What we choose to do is a reflection of who we believe ourselves to be. I've been privileged to witness the decision-making process here quite a bit over the last 2.5 years. And not just in committees and on boards, but also talking privately with members of our congregation as they make decisions that are personal in nature as well. Our choices really do show who we are when we are intentional about the choices that we make. While there are a lot of ways of being intentional about decision making, I want to share with you a tool that I'm particularly fond of called the 6 Thinking Hats. It's a great tool in both dynamic group processes and when an individual is trying to discern their own way forward. We're going to use a low-stakes, completely theoretical example to explore this tool. Completely theoretical. Don't get excited. All right, so let's pretend that your minister got the wild idea that we needed a barista in the Fred Ball Fellowship Hall every Sunday. Theoretical, low stakes. If I get people coming back to me saying, Reverend Tiffany, you said we need a barista and you've created this huge problem. Why did you do that? I want to say, no, I told them all it was theoretical. We're not exploring this. All right? But for whatever reason, I decided this was a good idea, probably because I really wanted a latte this morning or something like that. So, what are some of the things that we would need to consider, figure out, ask, or decide in the process of figuring out if Reverend Tiffany's crazy idea is a good idea? If you're feeling extroverted today, if you just want to holler out some questions that we might have or some things that we might need to consider when we're making this process, I would love to hear what sort of things we might consider in this circumstance. Who would pay for it? That's a very good question. How much would it cost? Okay. Who's going to do it? Yes. Conversations because of noise. Is it going to slow down our coffee getting? Okay. Will it be Starbucks? All right. What are there other things that we might consider? Oh my gosh. All right. I love that y'all are playing along with me here. All right, so lots of questions, lots of things to consider, right? What you all managed to do with this brainstorming is recreate at least part of Edward de Bono's decision-making tool called the 6 thinking hats. Edward grew up in the island of Malta in the 1940s and 50s, and he was a bit of a prodigy when it came to creative thinking and problem solving. He noticed how often intelligence was used to one-up people or to silence them to win an argument. And he thought that surely there must be better uses of the human brain than playing these dominance games. He pioneered the idea of lateral thinking, that by shifting our perspectives, we might be able to see a challenge from a different angle, to essentially stop working against each other and to start working together constructively to solve our problems. And he represented those perspectives with different colored hats. So we're going to start with one of the simplest hats, the white hat. Don't mind the blue underneath. Just the white on the outside. All right, this is the factual hat, and it's all about gathering concrete information. Think white like a fully erased whiteboard, a blank slate where we can just pile up data. So in our fancy coffee example, this might include gathering how much money we're going to spend on coffee now versus the projected costs of the fancy coffee. It's the first question y'all asked. How much will this cost? Another white question you all came up with is, who's going to do it? Do they take the app? This is all part of data gathering. For me, this hat is a no-brainer. Of course we need to gather facts when we're working to make decisions, right? And yet, we also know that facts and statistics can be twisted, omitted, or presented selectively to further an agenda. So the white hat's data is really only the beginning of the conversation. The balancing point then for the white hat is the red hat. That one's a little tight with my big hair. This is the hat of the heart, which is why it's red. It's where feelings, intuitions, instincts can be expressed freely. A red hat frame of mind when we're talking about the coffee example might be, yay, I would love to sip on a caramel macchiato during church. But it might also be, ew, coffee is gross, or even, why are we changing something when it's working perfectly already? These are all emotional responses. And I didn't hear any from you all because I think you maybe had an agenda, which is fine. So we know that emotions play a part in the decision-making process. Every skilled salesperson out there will tell you that people make decisions to buy emotionally and then only afterwards come up with logical reasons afterwards to justify their decision. This means that if we're trying to make a decision, refusing to consider the feelings involved means that you will encounter those feelings later instead when you're trying to implement it, and that those feelings will probably have become inflated by then. So why not consider feelings in an upfront sort of way instead? What's interesting about the red hat is that the input from the red hat can vary widely, either for or against a decision based on the particular emotions of the individuals involved. The next two hats show how both the facts of the white hat and the feelings of the red hat can lean in both positive and negative ways. It's hard to find a yellow hat. And this actually fits yellow hat energy very well. So the yellow hat is explicit about being positive. It's called the optimist hat. It looks for benefits and values, the bright side of any situation. I can't keep it I just can't. It's easy to equate bright, sunny yellow with the bright, sunny, optimistic point of view. To use the coffee example, the yellow hat might imagine that having our own in-house barista would be appealing to newcomers or create hip and exciting atmosphere here. We might even connect with our values of hospitality and generosity. A positive attitude and the corresponding humor can be a powerful force in our lives. So we don't want to neglect representing the yellow. What can we do right? What can be right about this attitude in our decision-making process? A story circulated on the internet about a fast food manager named Jerry, who was known for his positive attitude and his ability to motivate people. He was known to say, "Each morning when I wake up and say to myself, I have two choices today. I can choose to be in a good mood, or I can choose to be in a bad mood." One day, Jerry's choice to be in a good mood was really put to test when he was shot during a robbery at the store that he managed. Jerry shares that as he was lying on the floor, he chose to live. When the paramedics came, they kept saying, "You're going to be okay," and Jerry chose to believe them. But when they wheeled Jerry into the emergency room, he saw the expressions on the faces of the doctors and nurses and got really scared. He could see in their eyes that they all thought he was going to die. And a nurse asked Jerry if he was allergic to anything. And he said, "Yes, bullets." Suddenly, his whole care team was laughing, and when the laughter settled down, Jerry said, "I am choosing to live. Please operate on me as if I am alive, not dead." And that's what the yellow hat says. Let's approach the decision as if it will work. And I'm not saying the yellow hat is always right, not by any means. But some situations do need a heaping dose of optimism. Our reading that calls us to see the worthiness of every person, that wants to see even the oppressors set free from their own trap, is a very yellow point of view. And we can acknowledge the dangers of holding this perspective exclusively. We could positive thinking ourselves into so many bad ideas, which is why yellow hat is balanced with black hat. The black hat is called the judge's hat, and it's all about caution. Think about how you walk carefully through a darkened room where you can't see. It's that kind of black. The black hat identifies risks and judges the situation with a critical eye. A black hat might respond to my coffee scheme by expressing concern over it being too costly of an endeavor, or coffee spills on the church carpet, or about a million other reasons why throwing a barista into a church our size might be unwise. Who would pay for it? Is the noise going to mess up conversation? Is it going to slow down our coffee getting? Black hat. Y'all were pretty good at the black hat. And that is not unusual. I want you to know that. The black hat way of approaching the decision is very important. If we're unwilling to offer criticism, if we're unwilling to consider why something might not work, then we are absolutely asking for trouble. And the black hat can be overused. Because the black hat is all about caution, people who stay in black hat mode can look smart, insightful, and rarely appear wrong because nothing is ever risked, which means it's an important point of view to represent, but it must be balanced by the others. Otherwise, no will always be the answer, no matter what the question is. That's 4 very different ways to approach challenge, but how do we make sure that each of these voices are heard? There's a hat for that. It's the blue hat. I like the blue hat on a lot of different levels. Think about a blue old school train conductor's hat. Those are always blue. This is the leadership hat, the process hat. The blue hat sets the agenda for the meeting and pays attention to what points of view are being represented. In our context here, blue hat would include making sure we are following both covenant and policy. Y'all didn't come up with any blue hat questions, and that does not surprise me. Blue hat is a little niche, but it's an important rule. And because in the case of our coffee example, the blue hat might have said, wait a minute, Reverend Tiffany, you're not the dictator of the church. You can't decide to hire a barista just because you personally think it's a good idea. The blue hat would invite me to bring my thoughts to the fellowship trustee, who would bring that idea to the board of trustees for deliberation. Then the blue hat that leads the board of trustees would put it on the agenda, facilitate the conversation in a way that ensured that all the other hats' points of view were present. The responsibility of the blue hat is one of the tricky things about leadership. We all tend toward white, red, yellow, or black, but leadership is about stepping back and attending to the process instead of our own personal hat preference. When organizations are intentional about using de Bono's model, the blue hat might even formalize the process of representing the hats by setting a sequence in which all the thinkers in the room will explore the various thinking points of view. They would actually say, okay, now we're going to do white hat. Okay, now we're going to do red hat. And they might decide what order is appropriate based on what the question is. But we can all use the blue hat more informally by just saying things like, I notice we've heard a lot of reasons why this is a bad idea. Would anyone like to offer up a reason why this might be a good idea? Or, I've heard a lot of feelings about this, but what does the data say? If you're making a decision on your own, writing out pros and cons on a piece of paper, you might want to blue hat yourself by remembering to take a moment to see what points of view are represented in your thinking and which aren't. And when all of this is led with skill, one more hat can emerge, the green hat. And this green hat says reject toxic masculinity on it, so yeah. The green hat is the creative hat, and it is all about generating ideas like the green of sprouting seeds. When all of the perspectives are engaged, it makes room for some folks to have unique, creative ideas that take the conversation in a different direction, or that perhaps solve the problem in ways that we never would have imagined when we were just doing black hat or white hat thinking. We might discover new ideas, alternatives, possibilities, and concepts. Maybe someone would suggest that we don't need a barista, we just need some of those fancy powdered coffees and flavorings and hot chocolate or something. For the record, not actually advocating for making coffee hour more complicated. I am grateful for our volunteers, and I want to be respectful of the time that they are already committing to this work. In fact, I think we should give our coffee hour volunteers a hand. How very red hat of you. Thank you. How humans manage to get creative in their thinking and stepping outside of the status quo was an area of great interest to de Bono, and he felt that it was the power of human creativity that would often solve problems that seemed unsolvable at first glance. It seems to me that the more we relax into a challenge and allow ourselves to play with these perspectives, the more likely we are to find an outside-of-the-box sort of way to address it. When a campaign to close the Troy, Michigan library was initiated to save on taxes, the library used creative green hat thinking to remain open. Supporters of the library started a yard sign and social media campaign that stated, "Vote to close Troy Library August 2nd," and under that, "Book burning party August 5th." Voter attendance for that vote was 280% greater than usual and voted overwhelmingly to keep the library open. Creative messaging that aligned a library closure with book burning got the job done. Very green hat. In our personal lives and in our communal lives here, we strive to make decisions that create a more just and loving world. To call back to the reading one more time, this is why we, as seekers of freedom, are required to make justice not simply a product, but a process. Just actions are the means by which to achieve a just society. As we do this careful, joyful, emotional, logical, creative, process-oriented work, may we have the wisdom to use every tool, every hat available to us.
Changes abound around us, within us, between us, in our communities, our neighborhoods, and our beloved faith communities. Changes abound. May we find the balance point we need as we move through our ever-changing world. The balance between the old and the new, between the known and the unknown, between the familiar and the perhaps bold and risky possibilities that may be there waiting. Thank you for being with us today. If you're visiting us, we invite you to leave your information at the welcome table back there and grab a brochure. And do stay with us for coffee. And when you step back there for coffee, be sure you sign up for Wednesday night supper if you're planning to come. This is the last day. We're shopping tomorrow. If your name's not on the list, you won't get food. Today, there's also pizza and salad available courtesy of the Religious Education Collaborative, and there's a donation basket out there, but this meal is available to everyone. This is because at 1 o'clock, there will be a screening of the movie Intersection, an opportunity to learn more about the intersex experience co-hosted by the RE Collaborative and RISE Healthy for Life. There are content warnings about this movie. Take a look at your bulletin for that information. We hope you'll be able to join us next week for our Halloween service where costumes are not required, but they're celebrated. We will have a trunk or treat after church. Right now, we only have 3 people who've signed up to give out candy. I know more of us want to do this. We definitely need some more folks to sign up, and please contact our DRE@hvouc.org and say that you could decorate the back of your car and hand out some candy. Of course, we're eagerly anticipating our auction. That's on November 4th. It's annual service auction. It's a big deal. And our very own auctioneer, straight from the last auction she ran, with some words for all of us. Come on up, Jen.
Good morning. Okay, so I have a few announcements. Next Sunday at 2 o'clock is the last chance to donate an item or a service to the auction. So next Sunday. Proxy bidders, if you can't make the auction on Saturday night, November 4th, but you would like to bid and participate in the items, you can sign up for someone to bid on your behalf. And to do that, you would go to auction@hvouc.org. If you have agreed to donate an item, there'll be times set up to bring them on Friday, November 3rd and Saturday, November 4th. So you'll bring them the day before or the day of. The auction itself, the live auction is going to start at 6 p.m., but you'll want to come early and get a little something to eat and check out all the silent auction stuff first. and get yourself settled in and ready to go because the live auction will be at 6. Okay, I think those are all of my announcements. But I also wanted to take a chance to kind of get you guys warmed up because we don't live in an area with, I don't think there's just like a lot of auctions around here. So I wanted to give you a chance to, practice. So when you're going to bid on an item, the way that you do that is you raise your hand. So everyone practice raising your hand high so that, the auctioneer can see you. Okay. And so you would raise it. So we practice that. Okay. So, we're just going to do something silly. I mean, we had to imagine a coffee. So let's imagine, I've got the best latte ever. You can choose for it to be, caramel or mocha or pumpkin spice or, whatever your jam is. Okay. And, wait, let me warm up a bit. Told me Tyler took 2 teas, sat him atop 2 tall trees. Told me Tyler took 2 teas, sat him atop 2 tall trees. Told me Tyler took 2 teas, sat him atop 2 tall trees. Okay, here we got the best latte you've ever had in your whole darn life, and the bidding is going to start at $2. Do I hear $2? $2 now. Do I hear $3? $3 with the lady in the hat now. Do I hear $4? $3 there. 4 in the back now. Do I hear $5? $5 on the side now. Do I hear $6? $5 the bid. Do I hear $6 in the front with the lady in the pretty dress? $6 for the best latte in the world. Did I mention it was a large? We got a $6 now. 7 for Nikki there now. Do I hear $8? $8 now. Do I hear $9? $8 do I $9 now. Do I hear $10? $10 in the back. $20 for the world's best latte. Did I mention it's got triple shots of espresso? $20 for the latte. Do I hear 25? 25. We're just gonna jump up big. 25 now. 25 with the lady in the hat. 25 for the latte. Do I hear 26? 26. 26. Do I hear 27? $26 a bid now. Do I hear 27? How many? $30 for the latte. Do I hear 30? This is for a good cause now. It's the church. $30 for the latte now. $32 in the back. What's that? $40 for the latte now. Do I hear $50 for the latte? $50 for the latte. Do I hear 50? I like the way this is going. All right. She really wants a latte bad. $75 now. Do I hear 76? 76 for the latte. Do I hear 76? 75 going and sold. Okay. That's how we do it. That's how we do it. So Saturday, November 4th, the live auction starts at 6. Show up a little before, get you something to eat, and get yourself ready. All right. No, actually, there'll be a break. We'll do half the live items, and then there's a break. Get something else to eat. Check out the silent auction. And at the end of the break, that's when the cutoff is for the silent auction. So you should know going into the second half probably what you got from the silent auction. Other questions? Oh, we're good at that by now. We've been doing this. I'm not in charge of that. Greg? See y'all there?
Okay, thanks, Jen. What a talent. Oh my goodness, we're lucky. Our closing hymn is number 1023. Building Bridges, probably not of grass, in the teal hymnal. We'll sing through it 3 times. This is also when we collect the offering. The contributions you make provide the financial support for everything we do here. Education, justice, fellowship, fun, religious services, and so much more. Depends on your contributions so that we can build our beloved community together here. Please rise with us in body or spirit for our closing hymn, number 1023, 3 times.